Good morning, everybody. Welcome to It's Gorgamatic on a Monday morning. Tim McNiff with Kevin Gorg, a.k.a. Gorgamatic, coming to us from Dallas, Texas, where we think the Minnesota Wild are going to play a hockey game tonight. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance. We're all getting tested this morning. I'll be heading down to that area next before we head to the rink. Dallas has been able to avoid a lot of COVID clips, so that's good news. Not good news for the rest of the week. The home game on Thursday against Detroit, when we landed, we found out that had been postponed. I'd be very skeptical of the game on the 27th in Winnipeg with the border issues that are going on right now.
Right.
So I think this might be the last time to see the Wild before the Winter Classic. And I think selfishly, the NFL is looking at that saying, well, let's keep these guys healthy. If they're hosting the Winter Classic, let's get them through the Dallas game. Let's get them home. And let's get them healthy and ready to go for that standalone game on New Year's Day night. Yeah, it's just, you and I were just talking before we started to record about how tough it is right now through the landscape of sports to figure out who's in, who's out, how the teams are doing. If you're a gambling fool like a lot of us are, this is the time of the year likely with COVID to kind of step back a little bit. Not wager as much because it just doesn't seem like a lot of this is very trackable.
Yes, no, it is extremely difficult. In DFS and one of the other shows that I do, Let's Play Super Draft. I put together two lineups. I always try to put together some lineups and just to say, hey, maybe you can get something out of this, and we'll go back like we do here and say, this is why I did this. This is why I did this. And I just kept having to pull guys out, and games were moving. And so the lineup kind of resembled what I put out there on Friday, but and I threw out so many different lineups yesterday because it was just like you just didn't know, and still you didn't predict that Detroit was going to thump Arizona, 30-12.
Unbelievable. It's crazy right now. And this morning I was out getting a little exercise, listening to one of my favorite podcasts, the VZ Network, and I think people that watch this production likely are familiar with the Vegas Sports and Information Network. Brent Musburger started this thing about a decade ago. VZ is a great podcast to follow. And they were talking about the game tonight with the Cleveland Browns involved, where Mullins, their third-string quarterback, is slated to start, and the line has that baked into it. But there's still a chance that Baker Mayfield could get a negative test today and play. And they're talking about how it's so impossible right now to handicap some of these games up until kickoff. And so you got to do your homework. You got to dig a little bit with social media and Twitter the way it is. You can get some information there. But I would tread lightly right now just in general because the practice times have been certainly affected. I can just tell you from watching the Minnesota Wild how things have changed dramatically here in the last couple of weeks. And right now, because we're going through a spike, because so many teams have players that are shut down, you're probably not following the Las Vegas Raiders or the Cleveland Browns closely if you're a Vikings fan living in the Twin Cities. But when you're making plays in daily fantasy or playing point spreads, you got to do a little homework right now because up until kickoff tonight, you don't know who's going to be playing.
No, and a running back, Jeff Wilson Jr. or something, was all of a sudden that name was out there yesterday. I'm like, wait a minute, who is Jeff Wilson Jr. and factored into it. He scored, I think, and then the 2 touchdowns Miami. I mean, I played Gaskin. I think a lot of people probably played Gaskin.
I did too.
Yeah, only to have June Jones III, the former
Duke
quarterback.
Johnson, seriously, I didn't even know Duke Johnson was on the Dolphins. I'm being honest. I had no idea.
Still in the league.
And he just signed his contract now. So they got him in there on a practice squad deal, and now they signed him to a contract. He went over 100 yards and had a couple scores, and this is what I'm talking about. These are the types of things that can be frustrating, but I think at least through the new year, you got to kind of tread lightly right now. It's a landmine-filled field that you're dealing with, and there are surprise pop-ups everywhere and crazy results. You mentioned the Arizona game, just a ridiculous result. Did Detroit look like a play at plus 13? Probably. In my wildest dreams, did I think they were going to win the game, much less blow out the Cardinals? I mean, it's nuts. It's just crazy right now.
So I got to ask you, and we have a lot to go over, and I'm not going to keep you extra. Won't do it. But I have to ask, were you able to spend any time this weekend with the PGA event?
I was. I'm a huge golf fan, as you know, and I love fantasy golf, but this was different, right? And seeing Charlie Woods out there, and I got to tell you, as a golf fan, and it's hard to handicap and because he's 12 or 13 years old, but looking at what he can do already and thinking about where this kid might be in 5 or 6 years, 7, 8, 9 years when he's in college and then ready to go on the tour, look out. It's going to be something to see. And then seeing John Daly and his son win the event, seeing Lee Trevino out there with his boy, Justin
Grandson.
Thomas, grandson, excuse me. It was a really cool event. And Charlie Woods absolutely stole the show, and rightfully so. But just in general, watching that yesterday, I just had a ball.
The exact same thing, and why I wanted to ask you about this, because I know your connection to golf. And so yesterday I had heard about the event on Saturday, like just watching the news recap. And so I went and watched the highlights. And then so yesterday I was watching NFL, but I was doing some other things. And I said, oh my gosh, I think that golf is on. And I flip it over. And the first thing I see is the two of them standing like next to each other. Tiger, black hat, red shirt, black slacks. Charlie, the exact same thing, mini me, and I just busted a gut. I just start laughing. And then you watch the kid, and he does the club twirl, and he points, and he does, and after he makes one, he turns it, and there's no hint of a smile. There's no emotion whatsoever. He's got genetically and by training and just osmosis, being next to his dad, like you just said, are we really going to have to wait 7 years? He's 12. Before he hits the PGA Tour, because he's going to be ready in 3 to start earning money, and he'll be a threat no more than 5. There was a hole yesterday, KG. There was a hole yesterday where he drove. It was either 16. I don't think it was 18. It's I think 16, where he was up in front of Tiger. I would say the women's tee, but whatever tee they had set up was 65 or 66 yards in front of Tiger, and Charlie hits his drive first. And the tracker, this ball is a laser beam right down the middle of the fairway. And then Tiger drives, and he doesn't reach Charlie's drive.
No, and he's 12.
12.
And he's as good a putter. I mean, he might be a better putter than his dad right now. I want you to think about that. But, I mean, watching him yesterday make some of those putts when they were on that birdie run, they made like 10 in a row. This kid has all the game already. If I'm a college coach out there and I'm looking to win a national championship, I mean, I'm sure they're lining up right now, right? Because I don't know, who knows how long he'll even play college golf, but Tiger did at Stanford, and I wouldn't be shocked if he ended up there. It's great for golf. I mean, an event like yesterday is awesome for the game. It's awesome for all of us as sports fans. And I was such a rube last night, Timmy, with that clunker of a Sunday night game that I went back to the Golf Channel in my hotel room last night and watched some of the rebroadcast. I couldn't get enough. It was mesmerizing. No. Aside from the outfits, which were, like you said, it was spot on. The man, the pointing when he made the putt, and the kid he's robotic like out there, and he is a stud. I can't wait to see where this ends up.
That shot on the par 3 17th where you have to play over the pond, and he hits just that laser. I mean, I don't know about, I don't have your game, I'm sure, but there's no way I'm going over the water. No. I'm pushing to the right. I'm definitely trying to keep it out of the water. He flies the water and leaves it 3 feet from the green. It's just like,
what a stud.
So my thought is the conversation has to be, because Tiger is laser focused on Augusta. He'll everything else will be just get me in shape where I can play Augusta. Doesn't Charlie have to be saying get me there too, and he'll play the amateur part of it? Can he qualify?
At age 12, I'm not certain he can, but it won't be long. It won't be long, and the Masters would be with Tiger coming back, and I think that's his target. It's going to be so cool if that's his first tournament back, and I'm guessing it will be. Knowing how Tiger's kind of run this, I mean, he might play in one event leading up to it. I doubt it, though. And you watched him yesterday. There, he's in a cart, and he's not 100%. You can tell after some of his big drives, he was wincing a little bit. He's still working through some of the leg issues, but you've still got 4 or 5 months to get ready for Augusta, and he'll be there. And won't we all be tuned in? Oh, there's nothing like the Masters. It's just that much better with Tiger.
I know. I did a video a couple of years ago where I was out at NSC and we got like 6 inches of snow like the Wednesday before the Masters. I did the old Mary Tyler Moore. I spun around, threw my hat in the air. I go, when it snows 6 inches the day before the Masters, because there's nothing to do. You're not
No,
going outside. You know what I
you're locked
mean?
in. You're just
Yeah.
locked in. And it's one of those sporting events for me that no matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing in my life, I have to have that Sunday to watch everything play out. There is just nothing like Sunday at Augusta. The music, Jim Nance. We know every hole, right? That's the beauty of the Masters is it's the same course every year. Unlike the PGA or the U.S. Open or even the British, it's the same course. You know every single hole. And I've attended 5 Kentucky Derbies, 5 Belmonts, a Super Bowl, a Stanley Cup, and a World Series. But my all-time favorite sporting event I ever attended was I got to go to the Wednesday practice round and the opening round Thursday of the 2008 Masters. And it lived up to the hype. You watch it on CBS, Timmy, and you say, there's no way it looks that good in person. CBS is doing some filtering with their cameras. Not true. I got there, and it was even better in person than it was on TV, and I was blown away.
I've heard that. That TV doesn't do the azaleas and all the rest. They go with an explosion of color, for the senses when you get there. But
And the
I obviously have never
undulation,
been.
the hills and the subtleties of that golf course. I mean, you walk that golf course, and I'm telling you, you're fatigued after, but it is just spectacular. Anybody who's a sports fan out there, if you can make it happen, it's not cheap. If you can make it happen, it's 100% worth it.
And just one more before I let this one go, just kind of a local angle for us. And Tom Lehman and one of his sons
Yes,
was like fourth, 3 shots back. They got 0 TV time. I never saw him.
I saw it once.
You did. Yeah, I did not. And so I was just like, I saw the final leaderboard and I'm like, whoa. One of the nicest men of all time, Tom Lehman.
I'll tell you right now, if you go to Alexandria in the summer on a weekend and go to a Zorba's, we all know what Zorba's, it's a fun little sports bar spot. There's a better than 50% chance you're going to run into Tom Lehman. I've seen him in the last couple of summers. We have family with cabins up there, and he's just the nicest guy. You can walk up, start talking golf with him. Very approachable, just a really cool dude. One of those guys that I think because of the way his career played out, for all of us in Minnesota, was pretty cool to see the way he went out and won a major. But really, legitimately, one of the coolest guys. If you're in Alexandria and you're at Zorba's and it's summertime, you got a shot to see him.
Well, we may be seeing another generation of Lehmans too, because it was interesting. Henrik Stenson's son, they all have these beautiful swings, as you've guessed that they probably would, and the genetics are there and all the rest of it. So it will be interesting to see. All right, I said I wouldn't keep you late. It's 8:43. We've got a comment. Is that our guy? Oh, Jesse Heinrichs. Here you go. Jesse Pierce. Zorba's Pizza's the best.
She knows. She knows.
Of course she would know.
Oh, it's a great little spot too. I mean, there's one in Brainerd, there's one in Alexandria. You go up north, you know all about Zorba's. It's very good pizza and it's a fun spot to hang out.
But what doesn't JP know? I mean, this
she knows
woman
it all,
is everywhere.
Man. Honest to God, she is a woman around town, and she's got great touts. And you know what? She's always out. She's never home. And for someone who balances that type of schedule with the kids and stuff at home, a lot of times the kids are with. She's a mover, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, I had a lunch with her. The only time we've ever met in person, and she had her baby Avery in a bassinet, right? And man, she picks that thing up. She's holding the door open for people. She's doing whatever. I mean, the word that just came to my mind was capable. You know what I mean? There's nothing that's going to phase her or knock her off stride. That woman can get it done.
I once watched her interview Mikhail Granlund in the Wild locker room at the XL Energy Center on a game day, and she had the baby pouch thing in front, and like literally was just professional, just kind of rattling through the interview. It got over, and Mikhail Granlund was just obsessed with this baby, and they made a connection there that I think still is a strong connection, because I know Granny now has little babies of his own, and the last time he was in town, we had a chance to connect with him about how much he's enjoyed being a dad, and I could see it years ago with that connection with JP, her baby, and Granny, the twinkle in his eye. And I'm like, oh, this guy's going to be a good dad. And sure enough, he's out doing it now. But I'll never forget, she is just able to like function at I mean, I would be freaking out. Like I've been with the kids. I stayed home one year and I got my ass handed to me. The whole, Mr. Mom thing, I'm telling you right now, I gained so much. I mean, I called my mom and I said, how in the hell did you do this? My mom had 3. She stayed home with us. So I stayed home one year, Timmy, when I was coaching, didn't teach that year. And I'll never forget it because I was exhausted every day.
Well, I only had the 2, and I told my wife more than one time at that time, and have since said this since, I wish I could have switched. If she would have had a job where we could have switched roles, I'd have stayed home with those girls. Every minute I had with them, I just absolutely freaking loved it.
I'd go back down a blink.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah. So yeah, I just did a Zoom with them the other night, had both of them at the same time. And I was like, to see both of them at the same time in the same place was just sort of a little overwhelming. And hopefully, everything goes according to plan, knock on wood, we'll have that this week. Right.
Yeah, that's what we're all looking forward to. It's Christmas week. Sports are going to be fun, but the weekend will be all about the family, and really looking forward to all that.
We love you too, JP. There's no doubt about that. All right, let's get to the business at hand. We are going to start, and so I sent a script to Kevin last night, and going through this, and I'm moving games around, and then I got one wrong, and it put all my numbers off and everything. And yesterday we had some confusion about whether there was 1 or 2 games on Tuesday night. There are 2 games on Tuesday night. So we're going to go through this. I did send an updated copy of the script. Hopefully we'll be on the same page. And if I'm not, we're scrambling with this thing.
We'll work right through it. It's
everybody else
hell right now. It really is.
Right. So the Jets and Dolphins, Miami given 9.5, the over under 43. You like the Dolphins at home. Again, difficult to handicap in this game. And the Jets, we didn't quite get there.
No, the Jets got a big lead early, and the Dolphins then just took over the football game. But what killed the point spread play was a pick 6 that the Jets got in the second half, right when the Dolphins had kind of taken the game over. Tua got a little cute on an out pattern. It turned into a pick 6. If that doesn't happen, I'm convinced Miami wins by either 10 or 14. They were moving the ball throughout the entire balance of the second half. They kind of wore the Jets down with the time possession. So they win the game by 7. Not enough when you're laying the points, and that's the problem when you play a favorite, especially a favorite laying 9.5. You give up points the way they did with that pick 6, and early on in that football game with some turnovers that were costly. You're playing catch up, and it's hard to do when you're laying points.
Texans, Jags, everyone I think was sort of like rooting for the Jags a little bit this week to see how they'd react without Urban Meyer, and the Houston Texans were like, yeah, we're bad, but we're not that bad.
Yeah, I should have taken the points here. I took the under, and it had a chance until the very end, but a late touchdown submarine that plan. But honestly, that line kept going up, and I didn't understand it. And with COVID, you get paranoid, right? You think, well, they must be missing a couple linemen or something, because the line opened up near a pick 'em and ended up at 5.5 for Jacksonville. And they shouldn't be favored by 5.5 over a good college team. Honestly, they shouldn't. So I really overthought that one a little bit by taking the under. There were some big plays in that game, and that's the risk you run, and including the last touchdown of the game. Huge play. Selfishly, I liked it because Brandon Cooks is on one of my fantasy teams, and he absolutely balled yesterday, going over 100 with 2 tutties.
I had him in DFS and Robinson also, so I felt that same thing. I go, this is one of those rare games where both of those teams are looking at the other team going, hey, we can win this thing, so I mean.
Well, you get 2 and 11 teams playing in December, you know what you're going to get, right? You're going to.
Why was that not the Sunday night game? Okay, Falcons at 49ers. Niners given 9.5. A lot of points again in this one. Over under 46. You like the Falcons and the points, and 49ers just got it going yesterday.
They got it going, but I mean, if you didn't watch the game, then you probably don't have the same feeling I do. I'd come back and play the Falcons again if they were going to replay this game right now, and I'd come back and double my play. 4 times inside the 5-yard line.
Oh.
No points. 0.
Oh.
0. Kick the field goals, and they cover easy. It started early on. Frisco muffed the opening kickoff. Atlanta comes right down. 1st and goal at the 1. Cordero Patterson scores. They take the touchdown away. Oh, no big deal. They review it. He's short by an inch, right? 2nd and goal at the inch. 3 more plays, nothing. And then 3 more series later in the game inside the 5-yard line, and they started going for it on 4th down. When you're down in the football game, once you start chasing, you never catch up, right? And so the score, if you just look at the score, you're like, oh, wow, Frisco just killed them. They didn't. Atlanta moved the ball all day long. They just didn't finish their drives, and that was a killer.
and it's going for 2 in the NFL.
Oh man, I don't like it, and I'm an underdog player. I don't like it. Get the points. Just get the points every time you can. I don't like it, but
So what a flip on for me and like the Harbaughs. I was always like, well, I don't know about Jim, but I really like John. I'm at the point in the season where I'm like, what the is John Harbaugh doing? You know what I mean?
And I had this conversation with a coworker this morning. I bumped into him in the lobby, and I don't mind them going for 2. I hated the call. You got a quarterback that can run. He's got momentum, and I get you're likely not going to stare down Rodgers in overtime and survive. So I don't mind even going for the 2, but you run a rollout where there's one receiver in the pattern, and it's Andrews, the guy that's blown up all day, and the Packers are going to double cover him. The only option he had, there was no run option. It was a roll to the right with one receiver in the pattern. I don't understand the play call. You were doing so well in the run pass option and having choices for that quarterback, Huntley, and fine going for 2, but if you go for 2, give your quarterback a chance to make a play. They didn't do that.
Yeah, there was no creativity in the call, but there were some other times they went earlier in the game, and I'm like, wait, why? Earlier in the game, if they kick a field goal, it's a completely different, outcome.
Got the best
of the game
kicker
too.
in football too, in Tucker.
And Green Bay does not. If there's one Achilles heel in this Packers team right now, it's their special teams play, and their kickers involved in that. And they can't change horses at this, this juncture in the season. This is me reaching for straws. Reason why Green Bay will not win the Super Bowl. When I think
they did win the division yesterday.
Locked it up.
The Vikings still have 4 games to go. I mean, it's just depressing how easy they made that look.
And with both Tampa and Arizona losing yesterday, they're
you called this weeks ago. You called it weeks ago. The road to the Super Bowl goes through Lambeau. Good luck to anybody in that endeavor. It's not going to happen. They're going after what happened yesterday. They are absolutely the favorites to go.
And watching the game last night, the Saints and the Bucs, watching the Bucs was sort of like watching a person lose limbs. Godwin goes out, then Evans goes out, then Fournette goes out, and you're kind of like, really,
Well, remember the Saints went down to Tampa a year ago and put a 38-3 licking on them. There's something with that defense that gives Tampa and Brady a hard time. They've now won 4 of the last 5 within the series. Never had to sweat. Boy, if you played the money line, you were loving life. They were a huge underdog on the money line, and you literally never had to sweat. That was an ass kicking. Their defense dominated that football game. Brady got so frustrated. I saw the thing on Twitter this morning where he took that tablet and threw it.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
That was great. It's fantastic. And that's why we love Tom Brady. I mean, a lot like Tiger Woods. He runs hot and is used to winning for a reason. And he's the GOAT. So that hasn't changed. It just was a night where New Orleans was the better football team. And with the injuries, Tampa was swimming upstream all the way.
Watched him at the end of the game where people always want to come up and, at the end of the game, congratulate him. And you watch him like having these brief conversations, but yeah, you can just see how unhappy he is. Just one loss does not sit well with the GOAT.
I'd hate to be playing them next week. Depending on how they get, some of those players back from those injuries, I'd hate to be playing Tom Brady next week. I haven't looked ahead. I don't know who they're playing, but pack a lunch if you're the team.
If I'm Bruce Arians, I think Green Bay's got it locked up. I'm now just trying to get healthy. He gets Brown back next week, and I think somebody else too. And first thing he needs to do is stand in front of that team and apologize. And then they need to incorporate him back in this thing.
Yeah.
But they need to get healthy because they've got to go through Lambeau Field again.
And they did it last year, so it can be done. The Packers look awfully good to me. Their defense has taken another step. They've got the 2-headed monster in the backfield now, and Dillon in cold weather. That beast is going to be an issue to deal with for sure. They seem pretty healthy right now, and Devontae Adams is still Devontae Adams. So, yeah, I mean, all the Vikings fans are probably cringing because where this is probably heading right now. And AFC looks like a little more muddied waters, but the NFC, it looks like Green Bay likely hosts Tampa, maybe Arizona in an NFC championship game. So it looks a lot like last year.
I think Dallas is still problematic. If they get their act together, if their defense is healthy, Gregory and Parsons and
they've got the talent.
They've got the talent.
I don't trust Mike McCarthy, but they've got the talent. And to be honest, McCarthy with Dallas in a NFC Championship game, if it's really cold out with all the flashbacks to the Bart Starr thing, that would be cool. I would
to
be
go
on
back
board
and
for
beat
that.
and to beat Green Bay,
That would be very cool.
That would be rich. Yeah, that would be
I'd love
rich.
it.
All right. Well, the Saints won last night 9-0, so we get that one. We go to the prop plays. Brady, again, you didn't have to sweat this one either. You said he was going to go under. It was not close. 26 completions for 214 yards. That's the NFL we're playing in right now. If you watched Dak Prescott yesterday, it's the same thing. Everything is a dink and dunk.
Yeah, there's nowhere to go. And when you have pressure, which, unfortunately for Tampa, they could not protect Brady. And so you really couldn't do a lot of deep balls because he had to get rid of it so quick. So, yeah, kudos to the Saints defense. They really were dominant last night.
And if they get in, like if the Vikings lose, if the Saints get into, that's probably another team you don't want to see because that defense can mess you up.
Well, the head coach has won a Super Bowl. They have a defense, and they still have Kamara. And so they have enough where they could be a problem for anybody.
And a quarterback who's not afraid to use his legs either, right?
He's hard to defend. Taysom Hill is not a traditional, what you'd expect for playoff football type of quarterback, but he can still make plays. And with the run-pass option, like Lamar Jackson, like some of these other quarterbacks that have been good here the last few years, still very, very hard to game plan for.
Yeah. Myles Gaskin, over 53 and a half yards rushing. This is
I gotta laugh because he had one big run. It was in the fourth quarter. He was barely playing. Duke Johnson was playing so well. I'm watching on the airplane. I'm going, my God, what is going on with Gaskin? And he had one big run. And we talked about it yesterday. When the number's that low, all you need is one good chunk run. And the Jets are famous for giving that up. We stole one there. Thank God we did because the rest of the props were not good.
Arizona still had the training wheels on Chase Edmonds because you had him for the touchdown, and for whatever reason, they didn't give him the ball. I mean, this guy had 6 carries for 53 yards. He looked like he was the fastest player on there, and for whatever reason, they just didn't use him.
They didn't use him, and they didn't get in the red zone enough. He was great between the 20s, just like the team was. They got down inside the 20, and their drives would bog down. And we knew it would be a split backfield with James Conner, and it was. This kid's got talent, and I thought he was a good sleeper, and he looked good in parts, but you're right. They didn't do enough when it came down to crunch time.
Devontae Adams, you had him getting over 90. And again, with the dink and dunk, the nature of this game, Valdez Scantling had the 98 yards, Adams 6 catches for 44 and the touch.
I was surprised because number one receivers had feasted in the last 5 or 6 weeks on the Ravens. In fact, they were the second worst secondary in fantasy football against top receivers. They had the top receivers that had gone against Baltimore had averaged over 100 yards receiving in the last 5 weeks. So a little surprised by that. Got off to a slow start. And, I think because they paid so much attention to him, it opened up some other players in the receiving game. And Rodgers still looked like Rodgers.
He did. Dave Sinekin put on social media, he probably took a big step in the MVP race yesterday. And I think it's kind of a war of attrition. I think people keep eliminating themselves from the MVP race. So Rodgers, by kind of the cream rising at the end of the season, they're not going to lose. If they lose one game, they won't lose 2 games the rest of the way. I think he probably looks like if you're the handicapper, would he be the favorite in the NFC right now?
He'd be the favorite in football. Yeah, he's the favorite overall to be there. Huh?
Taylor?
Yeah. Their record is 8-6? I don't know. Green Bay is at a different level. And I think quarterbacks tend to win this award, right? I mean, it's Taylor's in the conversation. Mahomes still in the conversation, but if I'm making a line, he's the favorite.
Back to the props, Dak Prescott. Ooh, this was a tough ask, more than 2.5, and he's not going well. This team's not going well right now.
And this was a long shot. We were getting plus 200 on it, so you're getting double the money. And like I said, we needed something early to happen. It didn't. It was a Zeke Elliott touchdown. That was a killer. And then the game script, the Giants couldn't get. I needed the Giants to score some points, and when they're sitting with 6 points well into the fourth quarter, I'm like, well, there's no way. And Dak could have done it, but you needed something early. We didn't get it. You needed the Giants to answer. They didn't do it. Although they moved the ball a little bit, they didn't finish drives. And I took a swing. And I think Dak Prescott's a guy here down the stretch that I'll take a swing with again because I love his weapons. And he didn't use Amari Cooper yesterday, but he's still going to be a thing. CeeDee Lamb is a stud. Gallup, as I mentioned, is a great number 3 receiver. And I love the fact that both their backs can catch the ball and they have a good tight end in Dalton Schultz. So I still think Dak Prescott, if you're going to play daily fantasy here in the final month of the season, is a guy to absolutely consider.
Yeah, they certainly have the weapons, and I guess CD had some drops yesterday too. So 2 games tonight. We've touched on this one for a couple of days so far. The Browns and the Raiders have been moved, and again, there's some question about who will and who will not be playing tonight. Right now, the Raiders are given a 1.5 with an over/under 39, and your message over the previous 2 days has been, don't overthink this. Are you still there?
Yeah, just sticking with the under here. And I mentioned that, Baker Mayfield still will test again today and could be a late addition to the lineup that, might scare some people. Doesn't scare me. This game's going to go through Nick Chubb. It's a game the Browns absolutely have to have. And so I expect Cleveland to get a lead and to run Nick Chubb. And I think the Raiders showed their true colors last week. They played horrible at Kansas City. They're looking for this season to end. They're stuck right now waiting for this game to happen in Cleveland. It's a weird start time. Cleveland wins this game. They do it on the ground with Nick Chubb. Their weapons are all gone. And so I do think that the under 39 is the smart play. Cold weather, Cleveland, Nick Chubb, it all adds up to, as I mentioned, something like a 20-7 final.
I've slapped the label on about half dozen Vikings games so far this year as sort of must-win games. Speaking of games teams absolutely have to have, the Vikings have to have this game tonight. 5th time in 6 years they're playing under the lights at Soldier Field. It usually doesn't go well. Somehow they're giving 6.5 points on the road at Chicago. Explain that one to me with an over/under of 44.
Anyone who's watched the Vikings this year, if you've watched one game, you've watched them all, because what do they have in common? They come down to one score. They come down to one score. Only one of their games, and we're in week 14, week 15, whatever you want to call it, only one game has been decided by more than a touchdown. So if you're going to give me the Bears and 6.5 points in cold weather with David Montgomery and that team and that defense, yes, please. I mean, I'm sorry, Vikings fans. This is asinine. I mean, give me as much as I can get and prove me wrong. I mean, it's the same thing. This is the same conversation you and I had when the Vikings were going to Detroit a couple weeks ago. The line was 7. I'm like, why are they favored on the road by 7? They never win by more than 7, home or away. This one, to me, I know they need it, and I know the Bears are likely out of the playoff conversation. It doesn't matter. This is who the Vikings are. They play to the level of competition. It'll come down to the fourth quarter. And aside from all this conversation, we have a history here. Some of the best Viking teams we've ever had have struggled under the lights in Chicago, outdoors on grass. No. I'm taking the points. I hope the Vikings win. I want them to win the game, but they're not covering this number. I'm taking the Bears.
And number 8. I mean, his record as a noon starter versus a 3 p.m. starter versus a 7 p.m. starter, not good.
Fair point. Really fair point. They have Dalvin Cook. I mean, he's the best player on the field. I'm certain that's going to be the game plan. If it plays out that way, then great. Let Dalvin Cook do what he needs to do. Cousins doesn't have his nookie blanket, most likely, in Thielen. Chicago's going to spend an awful lot of time on Justin Jefferson. We'll see how that plays out. I don't know if he's a guy they can still limit, but everything again. Everything and when I handicap these games, I take a lot of different things into consideration. This will probably be my strongest opinion of the weekend. And like I said, I want the Vikes to win the game, but you're crazy if you think I'm laying 6.5 outdoors on the road under the lights in Chicago. This line makes 0 sense to me.
2 prop plays out of the game. David Montgomery, you mentioned him. You like him going over 60.
Yeah, I think they're going to feature him. I think, Chicago's game plan with Nagy is going to be pretty simple here. Get Montgomery going early. Try to lengthen your drives, chew some clock. Yeah, I don't think you're going to want to trade punches with Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson. So Montgomery, I think, will be one of their featured guys, and I think he's going to have a good enough game. I don't think he's going to go crazy, but that number seems very manageable for a team that's going to likely want to run the ball.
And it appears that the Bears are going to be without all 4 starters in their defensive backfield, which should mean JJ should be, no matter how much you're trying to feature him, who's the person that's supposed to stop him?
They got nobody that can keep up with him. They're going to have to double this guy up. But, I love how creative the Vikings have been getting Jefferson the football. And I worried when Thielen went down that the drop-off has not been there in the production. Look at the numbers the last couple of weeks. This guy's still getting 10 to 15 targets. So if he's going to get double-digit targets, Timmy, and end up with 8, 9, 10 catches, I mean, this guy averages over 10 yards a catch. So I've just done the math. That's a big number. I respect the number, and I still am not afraid of it. I think Justin Jefferson is the guy that you have to use in daily fantasy in this game.
It's 5 after. Should we hold the 2 Tuesday games until tomorrow?
Yeah, let's give folks a reason to come back tomorrow.
Let's do that. I think so too. So there we go. We just said it. Kevin and I are going to be back tomorrow. We hope that there is going to be a wild game tonight at 7:30. We have no reason to believe that there's not. Taking on Dallas at 7:30. The Vikings kick off at 7:15. If you're Tyler Furness and you have 3 TVs in your den, you're good to go. You can watch 2 of them right there. If you're Tim McNiff, the remote will be getting a workout tonight. So there you go. Or if the Vikings game is bad enough, I'll just be over there watching the hockey.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. We're going to be going back and forth. I know all of us and the crew here down in Dallas will have one eye on that Vikes game as well. And we'll hope that the Vikings and Wild both find a way to win. And this will be the last time we see the Wild until at least after Christmas, if not maybe until New Year's Day with the Winter Classic. So let's appreciate a chance to face Ryan Suter and the Dallas Stars, and let's get a couple of Minnesota wins tonight.
Break that slump, get out of that 3-game skid, get back in the win column, and take care of a team that you're going to see again in short order. So I'll put one on them today. I see Willie Miles. We'll see you in about 20 minutes or so. And thank you, sir, for your time and your effort. And we got through it, and I look forward to being able to text with you tonight and get your reaction to what's going on and talk right here tomorrow morning.
Look forward to it. Should be a great night of sporting activity. Everybody out there, enjoy it, and look forward to the week ahead as we get ready for a holiday week.
There he is, everybody, the best in the business. Kevin Gorg, a.k.a.